You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Josiah Walker.
I'm Brian Catherman.
And I'm really excited today because, listeners, we have a special guest with us this morning. It's Jeremy Meeks. He's with the SimeonTrust.org. He's the director of the Chicago course on preaching. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here.
Hey, so Jeremy, I've had an accusation that you and I sound a little similar.
Oh, I don't know if that's good for both of us or bad.
I can't decide, but let's try something. So
Okay.
How did you do the opener? Hey, say that again. Hey, good to be here.
Hey, good to be here.
Hey, good to be here.
There we go.
We can let people decide. We can see.
Now we're all equally confused.
There you go.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming back. You've been on the podcast before. We've had you, and we had Robert Kinney on before as well. He's your director of ministries over there. But we wanted to invite you back, and we wanted to, last time I felt like we did kind of a 30,000-foot view on the Charles Simeon Trust and the different areas that you guys serve in. But I wanted to really drill in today and talk a little bit more about the Chicago course on preaching that you offer.
Great. Yeah. So I'm an open book. You let me know what you want to know, and I will tell you about it.
Well, I guess first things first would be, what is the Chicago course and why did you start it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Chicago course is a residential training program in expositional preaching.
You have to say that like that every time.
Right. Yeah.
You do?
I'm reading that off a note card.
Okay.
So in short, the simplest way to describe it is it's probably the most intensive hands-on practical program in expositional preaching in the U.S. So
you think it might be the most intensive in the world?
Maybe, but I can't speak that. The world's a big place.
Okay.
So really what the thing exists to fill the unspoken but very real 1,000-mile gap between seminary and Sunday morning, right? How do you go from I have very little to none to a lot of theological education? Now, how do I communicate that from God's word to ordinary human beings? Which sounds simple, and as you both know, is not.
No. Hey, so sorry, I think Josiah and I talked about the direction we wanted to go with this a little bit, and I'm already going off that direction.
Right.
So do most of the guys in the Chicago course have a seminary education?
Great question. So it's about a 50-50 split. So we've got some who have a few classes maybe, or like absolutely nothing. Maybe they've taught a few times in a small group setting or church or whatever. Their pastor does see something in them, but they don't have a lot of the tools or a lot of education at all the way to, we've had students from Southern, RTS, Westminster, TEDS, all over the place. So it's a nice kind of mix that way. There's also guys who are currently in ministry and those who are headed toward ministry. And so the course really started, it was part of the original idea of the Simeon Trust way back in the day when we started 22 years ago, to kind of like, what would it look like to do a residential training program? And 5 years ago, we made the decision, okay, let's actually try and do this thing. And I got tapped to found and direct the deal. I'm still trying to figure out why or how I got so lucky. But so it kind of really was birthed out of this idea of, okay, we've been training pastors for a long time in these 3-day workshops, and it's very helpful. But man, there still seems to be like, what would it look like to go that next level? Because I'm sure you guys have heard this too, frustrated guys coming out of seminary who are in churches who are like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. Or churches who are going, we've got somebody who knows a lot about God and the Bible, but he's not a really good communicator of those truths. And then it's also just, we've had students who have been pastors for 10 years and they're just kind of burnt out. And they're like, look, man, writing sermons is a grind. Gardner Taylor calls it the sweet torture of Sunday morning. And it ain't easy. And so it's like, how do I get the skills and kind of get into the lab?
So kind of resharpen the saw, find the joy in it again, that sort of thing.
So then walk us through, if you sign up for the Chicago course, what happens? What goes on at this thing?
Yeah. So imagine the course like a train.
First of all, do you have to apply? Do you kick people out?
Yeah, so we might kick somebody out. I'd definitely be willing to kick somebody out. But
you know who you are, student in the Chicago
exactly,
course.
Yeah. Essentially, like if you're not pulling your weight, which is just doing your work, then you get booted. But you do have to apply. Like we don't just take anybody who wants to come, because of the kind of Socratic nature and kind of cohort nature of the course. If you got somebody dragging the whole thing down, then it's going to be difficult. So when you apply, like what the course consists of is kind of two parts. So the big broad picture is, imagine a train like a circle on a circle track. That track is made up of three pieces, like your kids might have made with like a little train track. Each one of those three pieces is 10 weeks long. And the train just goes around in a circle. The only question is when you get on or off the train as a student.
So you can start at any time.
You can start at any time. Yep.
Okay.
So it's the same thing as like a university model where it's 3 terms. Each term is broken up into 2 5-week chunks. Each 5-week chunk, we look at one genre of the Bible. So today, for example, we're in our last part of looking at the prophets. So we're going to have a break, and then going into the spring term, we'll study wisdom literature for 5 weeks and then apocalyptic literature for 5 weeks. So you can begin at the beginning of the fall or the winter or the spring term. And then you're just jumping on and off. So if you're full-time, you just go around that circle one time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. If you're part-time, you go Monday, Tuesday around the track once. And then the next year you do Thursday, Friday around the track, which is by far the ideal way to take it. Gives you more time to kind of digest, because you can cram systematic theology. You cannot cram expositional preaching.
Right.
Especially you can't cram like the practical outworking of it, the actual putting it into practice. You can read books and stuff, but it's a different thing. And then we also have modular students who come in and do one of those 10-week chunks per year. That's mainly like international students, because you don't have to get a special visa. And also like associate pastors who are like, okay, my church can let me go for 10 weeks, especially because when I come back, I've got a suitcase of my own material to put in practice for an entire year before I go back to the course to take another one of those sections of the train track.
That's pretty nice. But they go back at a different time of a year because that train track would be at a different time. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, because the course never changes, just your interaction with it does. So like if a listener is familiar with the workshops that we do, like you'll do the initial work on 240 sermons. So the kind of sermon preparation worksheet that we would do at a workshop, you do 240 of those. So that's 7 years of your own material that you're putting in your back pocket. You also preach. If you take the optional morning sessions, you'll preach 40 times.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yep. Some of that is on the worksheets you've done. Some of that is just your own work, plus whatever you're preaching in the local church, because you're kind of partnered with a local church while you're here. And that work looks different for each guy. Each student, because we have female students as well. And kind of depends on your time, your capabilities, the church that you're at, all kinds of stuff like that. But you are embedded in a local church the whole time.
So this is not something you could do online. I mean, this is like a serious in-person deal.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually proved the concept that you couldn't do it online. Like if we did it online, we would have so many students everywhere. And there's a constant push from people who are like, look, I'm in Texas. I'm kind of drowning in ministry, but I'm full-time. Sermons are killing me, but I can't move there. But what do I do? And my heart goes out to these kinds of people. But the reality is, like, you can't do this online. During COVID, we actually had to go online, and we had already spent like a few terms together, and it was one of the worst experiences of our lives, like mutually, because the work is so intense and because it's so kind of hands-on and Socratic that you can't. There's no like lectures around here. Right. There's instructions, but they're all very engaging and kind of dynamic.
So this is boots on the ground in Chicago.
Yeah,
in weeks.
Yep.
But you got guys in Texas. We're in Salt Lake City. Have you guys ever thought about doing maybe a West Coast run and just setting up shop somewhere out here?
3 train track pieces that go around for 1 year somewhere in another part of the country.
Right. Yeah. The funny thing is, like, the short answer is not yet. The long answer is who knows if we would ever do something like that. It's hard enough it takes a lot to make this thing go around. And if we put it in Salt Lake City, of course, somebody's going to go, well, here's the thing. I'm not there. I'm right in like Nevada. So why don't you do it in Nevada? And then they're like, well, I'm in San Diego. So why don't you do it in San Diego?
If you just want to give those guys my phone number, I'll field all those calls for you. I'm happy to take that.
There you go. Good. Right.
So what about these guys? Let's talk about these guys that are there.
Yeah.
In places, solo pastor, can't get away, can't do any of that kind of stuff. New guy. What would you suggest maybe for creating a cohort of sorts? Because I'm doing the online courses at Simeon Trust, which are outstanding, by the way.
Yeah,
they're really, really helpful. They're great. I mean, you can put a lot into that, and you can get a lot out of it, and you can print the sheets and do the forms, and you can do a lot. But you don't have the cohort, right? You don't. So, what kind of advice would you give to a guy who's like, "Hey, I can't go there. I can do the online stuff, but I'd like to get some people around me." What?
Yeah. So a couple ideas. First idea is it's better to do something poorly than not do anything at all. So so the online course is kind of interesting and you can learn some stuff if you do it by yourself. But as anybody who's ever taught anything knows, the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else. So take a group from your church, maybe 2 people, might be 20 people, at your own pace, whatever pace works for your church, through the online courses. And you can use the online courses whatever way you want. So I'm training a group of sports chaplains right now across Latin America using the online course. And we're using the thing that we're going to be teaching, like the text we're going to be teaching. We do that like a small group worksheet. And then we just have a short conversation about the video and like the kind of worksheet on the video. But we're really just kind of boots on the ground, working through worksheets. But like you can do whatever works for you. And then the kind of thing, I know a lot of people, that sounds intimidating. It's like, well, what does that look like? Well, one suggestion is maybe you can't come to Chicago course full time. Why don't you come here for like 2 or 3 days? Like just hang out here, just sit in class, pick our brains, see how we do things here, and pick up the practical tips of like what residential training looks like.
I just saw Josiah grab his pen, and I was grabbing my pen. We should talk about that. Like, awesome idea.
Like, and like this is like a real deal. Like, we don't have like special preview days where we put on a dog and pony show or whatever. Like, we just have people sit in for all different kinds of reasons at all times of the year. So you can just get our calendar and go, either those dates work for me, or those are some interesting instructions in the morning by on interesting things. And so let's just go and sit for 2 days and just observe. And that's been helpful for individuals and also for kind of like teams to kind of come in and go like, oh, okay, this is what it might look like for us.
Now, is that the kind of thing where you want us to call ahead and say, hey, we're coming, or do I just show up with my suitcase? Or
yeah, I mean, it's better if I've got at least 24 hours notice so I can set up a couple extra chairs, but just come.
Surprise. Awesome. Well, you get a stand the whole time. You didn't let me know you were coming.
Yeah. In the corner. Go back in the corner.
Yeah. Get back. That's actually really great. I mean, that's a really good idea, just to get some sense of what can we do. We tried to do a preacher's lunch here, and we just thought, okay, this will be cool. Like once a month, let's just have one of the pastors preach. And let's all just be in that. And we weren't even starting with, we're going to help critique or anything. We were just like, let's just get together and listen to sermons. And that didn't work. Everybody's schedules couldn't come together. People are like, well, you just want me to preach another sermon? I'm like, it needs to be something more we could offer, but I don't feel qualified to come in. Like, I'm just going to make something up. Hey, okay, we're all going to do something now. And the sad part is I have done doctoral seminars in my doctoral work on preaching, and I'm still like, I don't know how I should do this. So
so there's like, because if you're out there and you're thinking, okay, well, I'd like to come and hang out for a couple of days, but something like this, either like with a group of pastors in your area, or we've had a lot of conversations with like church teams who are like, how do we even give sermon feedback? Because that's another thing that like, and how does it anything other than like, I didn't like that, or that blessed my soul, brother, which means nothing, right?
Right.
Completely.
Even and then even give him the Ash. What's his first name? You give him a little Listen Up book.
Yeah, Listen Up book. Yeah.
What's that guy's first name?
Christopher
Ash. Yeah. And so I did that. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so great. I give them all the books, and they're all like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
what? Oh my goodness, that wasn't that hard, but
Right. So one thing that we do here that's freely available online is we call it Under Fire, and we just record student sermons, and then we film the feedback sessions.
oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and so the feedback sessions we do here are pretty simple. It's 5 rounds every single time. It's exactly the same. We start with the preacher, and round 1 is what just encouraged you personally, either as you wrote the sermon or as you listened to it. And we're like, be specific, like as specific as you can be. And then there's 2 rounds, beginning with the preacher, with what went poorly. And when it comes to that, it's what went poorly. We say, like, you don't have to give all this, but you have to be able to answer all this. What went poorly? Why do you think it didn't work? What should they have done instead? And why would that have been better? If you can't answer all those questions, if it's like, I didn't like your second point. It's like, okay, well, why? Like, what about the second point? So it gets really specific and gets like really personal. And if you're a visitor, sometimes it's like, it's uncomfortable because it's like, what? I don't know if we should be saying stuff that's this personal. And then there's 2 rounds of positive, which is what did you do really well? And again, the general rule is if grandma could say it in church, you can't, right? So it's what went well, why did it work, and how's that going to inform your preaching? And if you can't answer those, then don't give the compliment. And it's like categories. Like if somebody says something, you can build on it, but you can't say the same thing. And so we begin the year around here talking about radical candor, Kim Scott's book, which is it's just an important principle of you got to care personally about humans and also care deeply about the project. So if you care a lot about preaching, you also have to care a lot about the preacher. And if either of those are off balance, you're actually going to do harm to everybody and everything. But if you lean, so it's like, let's lean all the way in. So let our criticisms like be the most stinging, honest criticisms, and let the praises be equally very particular. And so sometimes watching that can be helpful and kind of freeing to be like, oh, we can do that as an elder team or as a group of pastors. Because some people just don't know how to give critique, or they think that like if I give the critique, it's not going to be taken very well. Right. So yeah, it's one of the like unique aspects of coming here is like every single day we end with preaching lab, and so we're in this all the time. So you actually learn how to be a really good critiquer of sermons,
which helps in understanding sermons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Joe, I think we're running out of time. What other pressing questions do we have for the Chicago? How much does the Chicago course cost?
So the whole thing is $5,000. It's a joke, right? It's we're trying to make it the most affordable thing. So that's whether you take it, over 3 different years, we chunk it up into 3 payments. If it's 1 year, whatever. But yeah, that's what it is.
What does that $5,000 cover?
That's tuition.
Does it cover housing if I have to come to town, or is that just the coursework?
No, that's not housing. We do
know how expensive housing is in Josiah, Chicago, like through the roof. It could,
I just want to clearly
like
outline.
2 weeks of housing.
Yeah. So this is like the upside of doing it in Chicago is major U.S. city, super diverse, lots of people here, lots of preaching context, lots of churches, all kinds of stuff. The downside is it's insanely expensive. However, we live in a part of town where we've made it as affordable as possible. We own a few units that we rent out to students. So the tuition doesn't cover that stuff, but this is the thing, like a lot of people are like, okay, the Chicago course is very desirable. And one of the things that I'm trying to help people grasp onto is like, yeah, but it's also doable. Like everybody who's ever wanted to come has figured out a way to do it, especially if you come like part-time. Seems like insane, like 2 years of your life, but you're working in a local church. You're volunteering in a local church. You can work a side job. You're only in class 2 days a week. And you're actually gaining skills. And, everybody who's ever been at the Chicago course that wanted a job when they left has one. I can't promise jobs to everybody, but churches are looking for people who know how to do the work.
Right.
They don't just look for the degrees. They're looking for like, hey, do you have the actual skills to do this kind of work? And it's been super beneficial.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, this is exciting. It's equal parts daunting and equal parts like thrilling. So,
yeah.
So if somebody wants to find out more about the Chicago course on preaching, where do they go?
Yeah, you can go to chicagocourse.org. You can write me, Meeks at SimeonTrust.org. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to the Preachers Preachers Talk.
Yeah, Preachers Talk
podcast. Fantastic. I've listened to all of them. I love them. I love it when they come out. Just love hearing what you guys have to say about it. I need to send in some more emails so you guys have more quirky things to talk about. You know, I got this weird question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for being on the show. We appreciate it. If you want to find out more about the Chicago Course on Preaching, he just gave you the website and his email address. And then, like Brian said, make sure you check out their podcast as well, Preachers Talk. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. Find more information at SaltyBeliever.com.